then I wanted to go ahead and get started. So 266 people. Hi, everybody. I'm on. I'm online. Hi, Tanya. How are you? Steve, thank you for acknowledging. We're trying to get everything together here. So uh, first of all, let me just tell you all this. I have a new laptop, so I trying to get it on, get everything together here. We do have a lot of information we want to share. We want to thank you for being with us today. We're excited that you're with us, and we have a lot of things that we want to discuss. And so I'm caught off guard, and I don't like being caught off guard because that makes me not start correctly here. But we've been trying to help each other get this thing together. We have some interesting people here that we want to have talk to you as well. Our clients, Gerry Waytowich from Bankers, Carolann Whitfield from Wright, and also Kathryn Dorn. Sister Kathryn is from Wright also, who's going to be talking to you about some private stuff. And so again, thank you all for joining. And we're going to get started and get things smoothly running shortly. Uh, so, but right before that, what we want to do is we want to let you know that if you're joining this, especially this particular presentation for the first time, we ask that you send a copy of your resume and your FCN card to us. Our address is going to be at the end of the presentation, but my name is Donald.Waters at Allied USA, Allied American USA.com. And we like to, have you send us your resume and your FCN card. And hopefully, we can, you can join us and we could get some things together. Um, we've been excited about what's going on in between us and our clients in the last year or two. And so we're going to be talking about that shortly. I don't know. Can I share?
Yes, please do.
Okay. All right. And I'm hoping that everyone can see my slides. Can somebody just say yes if you can?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So, um, thanks, Tanya. Thanks, Tanya. Thank you. Okay. And again, welcome. And just want to just say thank you so much because this has been a little struggle for us. And we've had some ideas, some expectations, and things like that we've been really working hard to do. And so for the last couple of years, we have worked closely with our clients and others as well. And we have a really good a really good relationship with our clients. They they call us they call us all kind of names. There are days when it's like, what the it's on your mind kind of a thing. But the other thing is that we're able to communicate and to talk about some issues and things like that that's going on. One of the things that's important is my coworker, Candice, wants to say hello, and she'll be joining us as we get through the day. So that's Candice, and I'm Donald, the flood consultant here at Allied. And again, we're going to be spending a lot of time with you today. And if you have any questions, Candice is going to be here all day. She kicked me underneath the table to let me know that I said something incorrectly. When I say ouch, you'll know exactly what that was all about. Okay. Now, we have some goals and they're really important to us. Yesterday we had a meeting with my boss's boss to tell us some of the things that they're looking for and really some of the excitement that they're looking for. And the fact that you work for Allied, Allied works for clients, clients work for policyholders and all others. And we expect that all of those entities be respected and that you give them your professional uh, work as we go through the hurricane season. Now, we're in the process of trying to develop a cadre of professional adjusters and examiners, and we're really proud about that because we want to work with people who want to work. We want to work with people who want to understand the process and to understand our business and to get an understanding of what is what's really important when you work for us? Yeah, working for us and getting information to us to make sure that we take care of our clients, make sure we take care of our policyholders, the NFIP and everybody else that's involved. The NFIP and the private companies, they don't really have to uh, have us working for them. So it's an honor to work with them. And so what we want to do is let them know that we have professionals that understand and are consistent and uniformity of the current claims practices. And what we want to do is be just be simple with it, understand it, do your best. And if you have a problem, you let us know and let them know. And so we can work together so we can get everything done that we need to. And we want to do this early on in the process, especially if you've never worked with us before, so that we can get all the issues out of the way and have a great hurricane season and work. And those are the things that we're going to be kind of like talking about today. We believe that an exceptional customer service, customer-centric service with the policyholders. Now, what that means is we're going to pay what we owe, we're going to take care of the policyholders, and we're going to let them know why we can't pay and the reasons for what we do and how we're doing it. We're not going to walk away from them when they ask us a question. We're going to stand there and talk to them so they'll understand exactly how the process works. And if you can't do that, then maybe this isn't the place to be. But taking care of our customer, understanding the policies, understand all three policies, and understanding what our contracts have, and if there's a water claim and you're dealing with mitigation companies and how you work with them to explain to policyholders, those are the things that we're talking about. Take your time, handle the claim, and make sure that when you're finished with it, you've done all that you can do. And we don't want a wrap or a supplement because you just didn't understand what you were doing. Please ask the questions. We have professionals at all the adjusting firms. We have them here. And if we don't understand, then we'll go to the client to make sure that we're handling it the way they want us to. And those are the things that we're looking for. So what we're trying to do is cultivate a long-term partnership with professional adjusters and examiners. And so we thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to working with you. Again, if we do not have your resume here at Allied, please make sure you get it to us along with your FCN, okay? And any questions you can send us some questions, I guess, in chat. But honestly, we aren't really looking for no questions. We want some understanding. Somebody got a question up there already, a Q&A. So we'll see what that's all about. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a friend of mine. I've been knowing this guy since I don't know when, but we've worked together for a very long time. His name is Gerry Waytowich. He works for bankers, and he's one of our clients, and he's got some things that he want to share with you about how he wants his claims work process and how he wants you to take care of his customers. Gerry,
Yes. Good morning.
is that right?
Oh, you got the presentation working good. Okay.
Okay.
My name is Gerry Waytowich. I'm the flood claim manager for Bankers Insurance Company here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And in the last Helene and Milton, Allied did a fantastic job doing our claims. We had very few, if any, issues with them. And it's a good company to work for. And if anything happens to me at Bankers, I'm going to try and work for them. In the meantime, like Donald said, the key is the customer and customer service. This is what we're looking for, and this is what the NFIP demands of adjusters that have an FC flood claims number and know the flood policy and all three policies. So I'm going to go with a little bit of issues that you should be looking for when you do go out to and adjust with these people. The adjuster's code of conduct. Again, go professionally, dress professionally, act professionally out there. You're there to service these people. These people are in a dire zone where they just been flooded, don't know what to do. You're there to help them get through that. Authorization. As a flood adjuster, you don't have any authorization to either deny a claim or to approve a claim. You're there to gather information. That's what you do. You take photographs of everything, talk to the policyholder, let him tell you what rooms you're in so you can label your rooms correctly. And that's what we're looking for when you talk to these individuals. Let me see. Contact, we expect once we give the assignment out, we're looking for 24-hour contact with our policyholders. They're sitting there waiting for you. And inspections, we're looking for as soon as you can get out there, talk to the policyholder. If there's a certain reason that you can't get to the or you're unable to get to the property, the bridge is out, whatever the situation may be, the community may have locked down the community for whatever reason. So, and just note that too in a status note that you cannot, for whatever reason, can't get to the property until over the 72-hour period or what have you, and we'll document the policy or the claim accordingly. Next slide. Expert assignments. We at Bankers assign all of the experts that are required to go out to the policyholder's home or work of business, whatever it may be. And basically that engineers, CPAs, whatever expert we need, we have a long list of individuals that we use constantly for that purpose, and we assign them to them, and we will let you know who the person is coming out there, the engineer, whoever it is, so he can probably meet with you out there. Preliminary report. We expect a preliminary report within 10 days of the assignment, if at all possible. If there's a reason you can't get to it, send us a status report. Give us an information, because the policyholder is going to call us and ask us, what's the status of your claim? We don't know because you haven't sent in a status yet. But we need constant communication between you and my examiners of how the claim is progressing. Advances, another big issue that FEMA and NFIP look at. They want advances going out there as soon as possible. We need good photographs. If you're asking for a large amount of money on an advance, we have to have backup photographs of the damages in order to give those large advances out there. If we got 4 feet of water in a house, we're not going to just give the guy $10,000. That's not going to get him started doing anything. On those, we're looking for higher losses, because 4 feet of water, your final report is going to be in the 100,000. So again, advances, talk to the policyholder. If you can't get out there and the policyholder does have photographs of the damage and sends them to you, we can advance based on some of that stuff before you do make a physical inspection. Final report, again, these guidelines are basically NFIP guidelines. But again, if for any reason you can't get the final report in, keep the statuses coming in. That keeps us abreast of where the claim is at all times. Because I guarantee you, the policyholders call us and ask us those questions. Where are we? Okay. Report submissions. Another one that we found out. CWAPs, close without pay. Those are easy. There's nothing there. You go out there, you take photographs of everything, get those closed in as soon as possible. That allows you to get a cash flow going in to pay for your gas or your hotel or whatever you're spending out there. That's easy money, and it's a quick closure. And again, at Bankers, when we close a claim, we pay the IA fee. So it's all right up front that the money is there available for you. And again, CWAPs are non-payable to the policyholders, and again, are a fast closure. We like to see those close fast. Estimating consistencies. Next slide. Okay. Again, the building and personal property. If you have if they have contents coverage, try you're taking good photographs of the couch, of the beds, of whatever's in the thing, in the loss. Make it available as soon as possible. Mobile homes, we need the NADA evaluation of the structure. You're going to have to fill that form out. It's an added form to it, but it's required. Sales tax, again, sales tax, if you're going to put the sales tax towards the end of the estimate, note it in your narrative that sales tax is included and it is in the end of the project. And again, don't use minimum charges. I think we all pretty much know that. Photographs. I received a preliminary report in yesterday, and I went to the photographs, and the only description in there was taken by the adjuster. That's all he said. And he took a lot of photographs. So now we got to find out what we're looking at. Describe what we're looking at. If there's damage, if there's a water line, if it's an ID off of a air conditioning system, whatever it is, identify it in the photograph next to it. There's a space for that. Just don't send us taken by you or taken by the policyholder. And again, take as many photographs as possible to describe the loss itself. Next. Next screen. Okay. Structural drying. This is a big issue out there. The mediation companies go out there and charge for everything. They charge to change their uniforms. They charge for filters. They charge for everything. None of that stuff is covered. Direct physical loss by flood. We will pay for tear out, mildewcide, but again, check your claims handbook or your claims manual, and there is information in there of how that the NFIP pays for mitigation measures, and explain that to the policyholder. Tell them basically, I'm going to write my report. It's going to have, and if you can, have a copy of that method 1 or method 2, whatever, and show that to the policyholder, and make sure that they talk to their mediation companies prior to signing up with them. In our system, if there is a prior loss on that loss, you will be getting that prior loss before you go out there. So once it's assigned, we send over the prior losses, so you know when you go out there whether they have repaired it or haven't repaired it or asked for receipts, that the work has been completed prior to the storm that you're there for. Non-waivers. We're all familiar with that. Again, a lot of the non-waivers, make sure they're filled out correctly and signed by the policyholder. If for some reason the policyholder does not want to sign the non-waiver, make note of that, and basically you can call the examiners and we can look at it and possibly talk to the policyholder for whatever reason, because there may be things that happened prior after he bought the policy that he changed something or whatever that's not covered by the policies. Salvage, another big issue. We evidently missed that in the last couple of storms. identify salvage. Once you pay for those items, they belong to the National Flood Insurance Program. If it looks like it can be repaired, or talk to the policyholder about salvage buyback. They want to keep the couch. They want to keep the dining room table. The dining room table only had water on the legs, not the top. And you're going to pay for that full dining room table. You have to address salvage buyback, where they're going to keep that table. They're going to maybe repair it. Then we owe to repair it, not to replace it. Keep that in mind. Special limits, again, refer to back to the policy of what's covered under special limits, and which is business, coins, artwork, that kind of stuff, collectibles. Again, keep that in mind when you go out there. Next. Next. No, no, next. Excess flood claims. We can skip this one because Bankers has forgone on the excess flood losses. Random claim quality check. This is one thing you need to remind yourself, that some of these losses will be re-inspected by the National Flood Insurance Program. They send out general adjusters to do this. They look out there to see how close and how good you did do out there. If there was something missed, they're going to identify it, and we'll have to supplement that claim based on what they find. Again, just remember that what you're doing out there may be re-inspected, so do the job right from the start. Next. Any questions? I'm pretty much finished with the presentation, but again, Allied did a great job for us in this past couple storms, and we expect you guys who are coming on board to listen to what they're telling you and how they're telling you to do it. Appreciate it.
And we appreciate you, Gerry. Thank you. Gerry put up a thing about questions. So what we'd like you to do, you can put something in the chat and we'll get that question over to Gerry and he'll be back in touch with you. Also, if you're raising your hands, we're not able to really take care of that at this time. So what we're asking, if you got anything, you want to raise your hand and you want us to recognize something, please just put it in the chat and we'll respond to you. Oh, the Q&A.
Chat.
I'm told not the chat, but the Q&A. I don't see Q&A, but it's on there. Okay, so I have chat, they have Q&A. Put it in the Q&A, and then we'll be back in touch with you. Is that what 15 questions are coming in at right now in the Q&A?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the 15. Okay, good. All right, everybody. And Gerry, thank you so much. A lot of the stuff that Gerry mentioned, we'll probably be mentioning as the day goes on. Now, everything that he says are things that Bankers is expecting from whoever is going to be assigned those claims. Now, the adjusters that's handling the claims for Allied, we don't change what Gerry wants you to do. We're asking you to make sure that you do what Gerry wants done for his Bankers claims. And so, because he's got to protect the NFIP, just like the other companies are going to have to do. So when he's talking about photos, I know we are so sick of talking about photos. We've been talking about photos since I was 4 years old. And guess what? They're still not telling us what we need to do. And so just please bear with us, hold on. And again, thanks for being here with us. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up another person that has been in the NFIP for quite some time, who's really knowledgeable, and her technical skills in the NFIP is amazing. And her name is, if I could just go to the next slide. Lord mercy, telling me what I'm doing here because it won't let me go. All right. That's what happens when I started this other stuff. Why am I having a problem here? Hold on, y'all. Just be patient. We're going to get you through this some kind of way. Yes, there you go. You thought you weren't going to come on here, Sister Carolann. But yes, Sister Carolann, Vice President of Flood Claims for Wright Flood. Good morning, Sister Carolann.
Good morning. Good morning. Um, really, mine is going to be 2 second. I'm just going to say amen and amen to everything that Gerry just said. That was my presentation. No, but thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so much for inviting us. And Allied did a great job for us last year in the examination piece, and we really appreciate that. Um, Actually, Gerry really made my presentation a lot easier because he touched on a lot of things that I was going to touch on. But I'm going to take it at I'm going to come at it at a different level. He mentioned about customer centric, and that's very important. I don't know if you guys remember last year I talked about empathy and making sure that when you go into the policyholder's home that you empathize and you understand exactly what they're going through. One of the things that Gerry had in his, like I mentioned in his display, was customer centric, making sure that the customer is taken care of, and that we treat them with empathy, respect, and as much as we can. So I'm gonna take a different type of a take this morning. You and I know when each and every one of us purchase a policy, it's a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper is a promise that if something happens to that thing that we sold you, whether it's a car, a home, a boat, a house, that we will do everything within our ability to make it right. So the flood policy is no different. It's a promise from the NFIP that if you flood, we are going to do our best to get you back into your home as quickly as possible. And so that's all we have is the promise. So I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about the promise. Okay. How many of you, as growing up and as a kid, were promised something and then didn't get it? What's the first thing that comes to mind? The first word that comes to mind is disappointment. You're disappointed because this promise that you were given, this promise that was made to you, was broken. And so what we're going to try to talk about this morning is to understand when we as a WYO, or you as an examiner, or you as an adjuster has a claim in front of you, you're looking at the promise that that particular policyholder was sold. And your job and my job is to deliver that promise to them. And how do we do that? How are we going to deliver that promise to the policyholder? Well, first, like Gerry mentioned, you go out there, you talk to the policyholder, you measure, you take photos, you do whatever it is you have to do to document that claim. And then you submit that claim to us as a WYO, and we then take a look at it, make whatever adjustment. But one of the things that we found in this last event here, the last two events, is that many of our policyholders don't always understand that piece of paper that they bought, that promise. Do you know a large percentage of homeowners don't read their policy? And so then it's difficult for us to go out there, for you to go out there, for you, examiner, to look at something in front of them, in front of you, and make the decision because the policyholder doesn't understand. And so you as a field adjuster have to make sure that you deliver that promise. And one way you can do that is when you go out there, you ask and the policyholder is talking to you, always have a copy of that promise with you, a promise that they purchased. Because if they have a question, you can point them into that policy as to where that particular issue is. We found out in this last storm, many policyholders did not know what PFE is, a post-firm elevated building. And they were mad because of the restrictions of a post-firm elevated building. So again, always have a copy of that promise with you. Explain as much as you can to the policyholder. Please don't just go out there, take photos and send it to the WIO and expect us to call the policyholder and tell them that, you have a PFE. We'll do that. But think about how much easier it will be if you, when you're out there as a field adjuster, tell the insured, it appears, and you always want to be careful how you word it, it appears your home is a personal elevated building according to this promise that I have, this deck page I have in my hand, or your loss notice. And because of that, there's some things that you have in this area down here that will not be covered. Let me go through that with you. Let me show you where that is in the policy. Soften the blow. If you show them, they'll be much easier for them to accept what's going to happen in the future. But when you don't do that and you leave it up to the examiner and the WIO to then pay the claim, like Gerry says, the claim comes in and it's $100, they're expecting $5,000. Then we have now to go and talk to that policyholder. Again, and we don't have a problem with that, but what we're talking about here is easing the pain. If you have a question, if you're not sure, if this does not appear to be a post elevated building, but it is, I'm not quite sure, like Gerry mentioned, send in a request for us to take a look at the underwriting, and we can do that. What we're looking for is partnership. You partner with us, we partner with you, and then the policyholder will be so much more happier. So again, all we have and all they have is a promise to pay. They don't know exactly what is going to be paid, how it's going to be paid, or anything like that. Your job now as a field adjuster is, once you go out there, you take the photos. And I have to talk about photos because Gerry talked about it. Photos are your best friend. Your best friend. Because think about this. You are the eyes and the ears that's on the ground, like, the latest boots on the ground. We, as examiners, we see this loss through your eyes. Because guess what? You were out there. Gerry says you have to paint a picture to us. So when we look at your file, we're following what you saw out there. And if those photos are scattered, not labeled, we don't know what we're looking at. You walk through the front door, hallway. To the right, kitchen. The back of the kitchen, family room. To the left, Bobby's bedroom. To the back, Cynthia's bedroom. To the back of that, media room. Put something on the photo so that the examiner can say, okay, I kind of follow what happened. Way back in the day when I used to examine claims, when I had a file, I want the address, front of the home, the sides of the home, and the back of the home. Those were the first 4 pictures that have to be in the file. Because you just sending the examiner a picture of the front of the home, that's not enough. Because most of the damage could be in the back of the home. The back of the home could be lower than the front of the home. The back of the home could be higher than the front of. Again, picture is your best friend. So think about it. When the examiner is looking at that file, we are looking through your eyes because we were not out there. We have no clue. You're telling us a story, and your story have to be clear and concise. If you have questions, you need to put it in your narrative or call us and we'll help you. So again, we're depending on you to paint a picture for us. And if you paint that picture properly, guess what? Like Gerry said, your file gets through a lot faster. We don't have any questions. Now, we understand that it's an estimate. And that's exactly what it is, an estimate, which means we're estimating what this is going to cost. We don't know. Because once the repairs start, you can pull up a floor and there's another floor underneath there, or you pull a wall out and there's another wall. Again, visual, that's all we're seeing until the repairs, have begun. So again, we're looking at you to help us help you and help the policyholder fulfill that promise that we sold them how many ever years ago, that we're going to do our best to get them back into their home as quickly as possible without much trouble. And so the other thing is that Gerry mentioned, Gerry, I tell you, you just helped me out tremendously here today. I can just say Gerry said it, so I'm good to go. The other thing is your best friend is the narrative. I cannot stress enough to tell you how important that narrative is. Because apart from the photos, you're telling us now something in the narrative of what you saw out there. We, as you guys may know, we get audited 4 times a year by the federal government, every quarter. And, we just got audited for this last quarter here. And one of the things that they brought up consistently was the narrative. You've got to tell a story in the narrative. And some of you guys use templates out there, and that's great. But you have to, in that narrative, explain to us exactly what you saw when you were out there. And if you're going to do something that's in the gray area, you need to tell us why. Because 99.9% of the time, if you tell us why you're doing what you're doing, it's not going to be a problem. So tell us in the narrative what kind of home it was, what you saw when you were out there. If there are any questions, question it. But the narrative, I cannot explain to you how important that is, because as an examiner, I'm going to read your narrative and I'm going to say, okay, this is what he saw when he was out there, and he's telling me a story. So now you're telling me the story of what you saw when you were out there. Again, you're my eyes, you're my ears, you're my boots on the ground. And I cannot properly look at this claim, examine this claim without you telling me in the photos and in the narratives what you saw out there. The estimate we can always deal with, because again, it's an estimate. If you miss something, or if something in the estimate have to be corrected, we can correct that. But again, in order for me to, as an examiner, to make an informed decision as to whether or not I'm going to pay this claim, as to whether or not this claim is going to go through, I need information. And without information, it's difficult to make a decision. So with that in mind, the next time you're out there, the next event that we have, think about it through those things I just mentioned. You are our eyes. You are our ears. You're the one that's on the ground. We're not. And we're sitting in an office and we're making a decision based on the information that you put in front of us. And if that information is incorrect or flawed, it's very difficult. It delays the claim. And if it delays the claim, that means it delays the money that we can send out to the policyholder. If it's like Gerry mentioned, if it's 4 feet of water in the home, please, and you have a 2,500 square foot home with finishes that are above average, $5,000 is not going to cut it. That's a drop in the bucket. So again, and you say that, one of the things again is kitchen. The kitchen, I cannot express how important it is. In the kitchen is where a lot of the money is. And you should be able to, okay, this is custom made cabinets. If this is custom made, talk to the policyholder. Did they bring the wood in and do all the work in the home? I mean, because you have that, and that's much more expensive than if you go to Lowe's and buy some cabinets. So you have to let us know, because we're looking at the pictures. We don't know if it's custom made or not. You get that in and speak to the policy. You get that information from them real quick. Yeah, these cabinets were custom made. We went to the lumber and we bought the wood in and we did it from scratch. That's going to be a lot more expensive than if you buy some cabinets from Lowe's. Your appliances, you should be able to look at that and say, okay, this is above average appliances. This is a industrial stove. This is an industrial refrigerator. So again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Your narrative is your best friends. And you and I know the more documentation, the more information, the more photos you send to us, we'll be able to fulfill that promise that we made to the policyholder. Because they're depending on you, and they're depending on you, and we're depending on you to help us get through, what is in most cases a very difficult time for the policyholder. So some of the things that we, like I mentioned before, in the storm is your narrative and your photos. We get dinged on that all the time in the RCQC and in the quarter in the operations review. And the reason why, again, I have to mention your picture is 1,000 word, is that, and you have to take the pictures from all angles, is that you can look at a home and in the front, it looks as if it's attached, but from the back, it's not attached. And if you pay for anything in that building that's not attached, like a bedroom or something like that, then that's a finding because it's not attached. But you're not going to know that if you just take a picture at a certain angle, or if you don't look closely to say, make sure these buildings are attached somehow and somewhere. So those are the types of things that we see in our operations review. Another thing is this: I have to go back to the narrative. If in your narrative you're telling us to deny something, okay, deny the pots and pans or whatever, right? You list what you want us to deny. But then when you go down, if some of you that use a template, it says denial and you say no. I want you to think, because guess what? In a storm, we're moving quickly. And it's very possible the examiner, even though they shouldn't miss it, will miss it and say, oh, no, no, no denial here, and move on when there should be a denial. So be consistent. If you want us to deny, make sure throughout the estimate, you make it clear that this has to be denied. And if there's no denial, no denial. Again, what we're trying to do is to deliver the promise of that policyholder. I was at an event a couple weeks ago, and the moderator described the flood policy the best, because we were talking about private flood, and we were also talking about the NFIP. And he said, the NFIP is a 1970 Pontiac. Yeah, roll the windows down. There's no cameras back for you to look at to back up. The side windows don't fold in. And we know that this policy doesn't make you hold. We know that. So it's up to you to squeeze every bit of coverage as you can out of it that is covered, so that we can help this policyholder get back to where they are as quickly as possible. So again, I want to thank you for your time, your efforts, and we really, truly appreciate it. I did a great job examining for us last year, and we expect nothing but the best, and we do get nothing but the best. We love working with Donald and his team, and we certainly look forward to continue working with you in the future. Thank you.
Carolann, thank you. I like that whole thing about the promise. That was good. I'm gonna tell you, you're getting better in your older age, trying to explain things. You're so good. But that was perfect. You and Gerry both. The thing
Yes.
is, there are no secrets. The
Yes.
NFIP is the NFIP. And like you said, it's been since 1972, everything has been the same. So if you could just help pay attention to what we're asking you to do for us, then we could get this going and we could do a great job. That was very, very good, Sister Girl. That promise. We don't have to patent that and, and send it on. Thank you so much. And we also enjoy working with you. So
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
this is a partnership that we really appreciate, and
Yes.
thank you for it. Now, the next person that we're going to bring up is my sister, Kathryn Dorn. I've worked with Sister Kathryn Dorn for the last couple of years very closely. I've known her apparently for quite some time, and so it's just been a pleasure. Now, I'm gonna tell you, somebody sent a question in to ask how many companies we work for. Well, we work for a number of companies, actually. And so, but if you're going to work with us, you can hear the experience levels that we're talking about. And also, I hope you can hear the compassion and 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 what it takes to take care of our policyholders. I hope that resonated through to you as well. And one of the people that I adore working with in terms of making sure that things get it right is Sister Kathryn Dorn. She don't play. She's serious about the business, and she will let you know right away what's accepted and what's not. And if she's not going to accept it, We're going to send it right back to you, and you get paid when you close the claim, and that's just the way that is. So it's up, Sister Kathryn, are you there?
What an intro, Donald. Yay.
Thank you,
To
sir.
that. So thank you. Nice to see everyone. And again, thank you for Allied for inviting us here today. We are delighted to be here and speak to you who have been helping our customers. Thank all of you very much that have had the opportunity to work with Allied and take care of our customers. Um, Gerry and Carolann have made it easier for me because they had all that great information on customer service and stressing that's what we're all here for. Carolann's delivering the promise. We've all got that, a wonderful reminder. And again, that's what, how lucky we are that we get to be the helper for all these people going through this time of disaster. And for those of you local, we really got to experience that last year with Helene and Milton. It was really close to home. Um, and it affected certainly affected me when you're speaking with a customer who lives 4 blocks away or something, or you're meeting in the grocery store. So again, I was grateful to be the person that's able to help and not someone that needed the help, fortunately. But as I say, Gerry and Carolann have both covered, most of the fundamentals of what we're all here for, what we're doing for our customer. We're listening. We're there to help, to find the coverage for them. So I'm really just going to jot down and go over a few of the differences for those of you that have worked private flood claims with us. And Candice does a great job with that and managing that and getting everything over to us very quickly. And we appreciate her very much also. Thank you, Candice. But let's just run through some things. As I say, there won't be too much. As I say, if you've already got the flood experience, you're halfway there, frankly. So again, why buy a private flood policy? Because as Carolann made that great analogy on a Pontiac 72 or whatever it was, the private flood can offer you more options and more choices and additional coverages that the NFIP is not able to provide. As I say, so we'll go through that. And Wright Flood, as I say, we do work. We are an A-rated carrier, and we do work with a variety of clients that offer many different choices for the customer. So the things that are similar, of course, we are a one peril policy. We are there only for rising water. Again, we cover at least what the NFIP covers. We do have several of our policies do also have basement limitations and restrictions. We all have sublimits, and actually we have many of our policies have a lot more sublimits, a bit more like an HO3 where you've got the cash and these other items on personal property. Again, carpets and appliances are often APC or ACV rather. There are other endorsements that you can buy that will change that. We do have the same coverage for loss avoidance and sandbags, like the NFIP policy, no deductible applying, and many of the similar exclusions on the retaining walls, swimming pools, that may change somewhere along the line. But there still are things that are not covered for the flood policy, and those are outlined in the policy that is provided to you with the declaration page before you go out and adjust and scope that claim for us. Conditions also are late reporting, show us the damage. All of these things are necessary to help us do the best job we can and find as much coverage as we can for our customer. Some things that are different. So you will need your state license to handle this claim. Our GCF is less to meet. We don't have to meet that 2 acres of land on the majority of our policies. So that's an added benefit for our customers. Again, we're looking for that rising water. And if, only a few houses or just your house at the end of the cul-de-sac was the unfortunate person to have that rising water, then, again, we would look at the policy and see if we can provide coverage for that. Only one deductible applies, again, just like a homeowner's policy. You're having that. The coverage amount. So we do offer, and that will vary by client. Some are 1 million, some are 2 million of total coverage. So nowadays, as we know, the cost of rebuilding, you don't 250,000 really doesn't take you very far these days with the amounts of water we're seeing and damage. We also sell excess flood at Wright Flood, so that's something else that can go on top of your NFIP policy. But again, you can buy $1 million in coverage. You can also have replacement cost on your personal property. You can have coverage B for other structures. You can have additional living expenses. So really, it's a bit more of a hybrid, like the homeowner's policy and the amount of coverages that we're able to provide you, which is, as I say, is great to be able to help the customer with those additional coverages for them. Public adjusters and attorneys, same as you're working with in NFIP, we are there to help the customer also, and we are working professionally with the public adjusters or attorneys to get that estimate and get the customer back to where they started or before the loss, again within the conditions and the terms of the policy. Proof of loss, we don't need to have a proof of loss signed. We always want to get that undisputed payment out to the customer as quickly as possible. So some carriers don't require that to be signed for us. Again, the goal is to get the money in the hand of the customer as quickly as possible, whether that's with an advance payment right off the bat after that prelim has come into us. And again, once that undisputed amount is identified, we want to help the customer get things back to normal. Again, we noticed the RCV on building and contents is available. Mitigation, we don't have to follow the 13025A or whatever it is, but we will be looking at fair and customary charges with IICRC on that. We do have basement restrictions, but there is endorsements you can buy. The customer can buy that will add to the contents and provide a lot more items down there, dollar values, and for the building also. So certainly the customer should be, speaking to their agent on that. Timelines are, state regulated. So these can often be quicker than your NFIP guidelines. So that's something to be aware of also. But again, if you're state licensed and you're working homeowners claims or other claims, then you'll be aware of those timelines again to get money to the customer and take care of the claim for them. Additional coverages, again, we spoke about coverage B for other structures. Some of our policies have trees and shrub coverage. So again, there are other additional coverages to help the customer. There, I'm rambling. Take a breath as I do and get that. Again, Gerry and Carolann went over the details and the importance of your narrative report and your photographs. Really can't say enough about your photographs and the documentation that is showing us all of the contents that you're asking for. If there's a bag of wet clothing in a plastic bag and you're telling us there's 40 brand name t-shirts, you're going to have to get in that bag and help us out or have the customer help you out there. So help us help the customer. Show us that designer handbag or show us that damaged close up, so we really can see the damage to the vanity and the cabinet and other items, the feet of something that's damaged. So again, we can see that and allow us to pay that for the customer, and the file will be well documented so our client can see the good job you've done too, documenting the loss and the damages. Often, again, if you're in NFIP mode and you're doing both, you're not looking to see if there's a fence, you're not looking to see if there's another structure that may be covered on that private flood policy, that shed, for instance, that could be something that's covered in your private flood policy. So again, just looking around the entire property. Again, we're looking for coverage for that customer, and labeling the photos. I know if when you're there, you know exactly what you're seeing and it's in your mind. So as Carolann and Gerry have said, really labeling and giving us the angles so we can get the entire picture. I know crawl spaces are often something, and we're looking to see what was that step up, and interior, can we see that flooring that may not be damaged today, but often, as I say, we'll receive a call many months later that there might have been damage. So again, helping us with that crawl space, or making a note if you were unable and the access to the crawl space was difficult, if it was welded in or there was some reason why you couldn't get in the crawl space. Again, helping us with as much information to understand and to have that discussion with the customer also, and have them assist us. So again, we can look for all the coverages that the policy can provide for them. And I think that is really the main differences that you're seeing when you're going out to look at a private flood claim. As I say, there are different coverages. There is more. You're, writing a higher estimate, again, often for us if we're able to provide coverage, because we can have replacement cost and so many other items. So again, much better for the customer. And again, you really are our eyes and ears out there. So we greatly appreciate your taking the time to listen to the customer. I know you're the first person they're seeing. As I say, we'll have spoken to them and called, but you're the first person face to face that they're seeing and representing Wright Flood. So we thank you for your professionalism and showing the compassion to the customer. We greatly appreciate that, and taking care of our customers. Thank you. Thank you again. And again, thank you to Brother Donald and Candice and Becky for inviting us today. It's a pleasure to be here, and look forward to seeing many of you handling our claims for private flood, which I say we work with many carriers, and that is continuing to grow as I speak. So, there's, definitely about 30 companies or so out there writing private flood. So that really has become something that is, if you haven't gotten involved in that, it's something, definitely to speak to Candice or Donald about, learning more and additional training that they can provide to you as needed. And I would certainly help on, policy on that also. So as I say, it is certainly something that's growing, and to have knowledge on. And so we look forward to seeing you somewhere along the line, whether that's the field or perhaps as a desk examiner when a CAT occurs. As I say, Allied did a great job for us, and we're very appreciative of that. And again, thank you again for inviting me, and I'll pass it back to you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, Sister Catherine. I was thinking about that bag that you told everybody to open up that bag and look for that pocketbook to make sure that it's in there, right? I love, I love it.
We
That
do
because
that.
that's what you have to do. And also, we're excited about working those private claims as well. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to let you talk to a good friend of mine, uh, Sister Candice Hill.
Hey guys, I just wanted to everybody wanted to first of all say sorry this morning about the delay in getting started. We were having some technical difficulties.
Turn it down.
Please turn your volume down. Again with the technical difficulties. Anyway, I just wanted to touch on what Kathryn was pointing out as far as the private flood differences.
Where did
Um, sorry, we're still, you don't have to turn your volume down.
I did.
Mute.
I did. Okay, hold on. Okay, she's kicking me under the table.
Yeah.
Hold on a second, everybody. Just give me a second.
Kicking, right?
Major kicking over here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Hold on.
We're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So as I was saying, I just wanted to reiterate some of the things, some of the points that Kathryn touched on. Really something that we find when we're doing our reviews here at Allied. A lot of adjusters, because you're so used to working the NFIP program, you're not accustomed to photographing fences, detached sheds. So that shed's not on a foundation. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about the fence or the pavers. There is much broader coverage on the private flood losses in some cases. Not all of them, but some of those policies do in fact offer coverage for some of those other structures that you're not accustomed to paying for. So please, if the homeowner is showing you things on the property that are damaged, just take a picture. If it's not covered, we'll figure that out later. But while you're there, we don't want you having to go back out. I don't want to have the homeowner sending me photos or taking measurements because we didn't document the shed. So whatever, anything that they're showing you, whole house generators in some cases are actually covered. That's something else that we're not accustomed to on NFIP. There are things that are covered, again, that we're not used to paying for, and we should document them. And even if they're not covered, we should be documenting them anyway. Any photos of non-covered items are actually just as important as covered items. So one of the things that I get a lot of questions from Kathryn and her team when we recommend a denial in the narrative, well, where's the photo? What am I denying? Please show me a photo of what is actually being denied. So, you should be photographing those items whether they're covered or not, but it's very important on private flood, especially because there could be coverage that you're unaware of. Just to also touch on Carolann's point with the photos. I know you guys, everybody's tired of hearing about photos. We're probably going to say the word photos 17 more times today.
Yeah.
I cannot stress enough the photos. One of my pain points on this previous storm and really years past is the homeowner has taken photos of the flood. They have 100 photos on their phone. They send them to the adjuster, and the adjuster uploads a photo report with the house completely clean. There's not a water line, the carpet's gone, everything's gone. Doesn't look like a flood even happened. And when I call the homeowner and say, hey, do you have a few pictures? Yeah, sure. So the homeowner sends me these pictures. We've got 2 feet of water in the house, obvious damage. Why those photos are not in the prelim is just, I can't understand, honestly. Like those photos need to be included in not just the file, but also the prelim. It is so important. I can't tell you how many times I get a file back after submitting a preliminary because it doesn't look like it flooded. We're asking for advances, we're asking for reserve recommendations. How can you recommend a reserve of $100,000 when the house is completely clean and you can't? This is especially important on claims where there's, 1 to 2 inch water lines. If you give 1 inch of water, there is no water line in most cases inside. You may have one outside, but you have trouble finding something inside. And I just can't stress the importance of sending those homeowner photos in with the adjuster photos. I know nobody wants to do that because the homeowner doesn't go through their photos. They send you literally their entire camera roll. Sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's 300, but it is very important to pick a few photos, just a few from that camera roll, and include those in your report. Photos should be dropped into the Xactimate sketch so that they're in order of the estimate. That Xactimate, that's foolproof now. You can't not put the photos in order if you're doing it correctly. You do your sketch first, you drop your photos in. That way the room names match the estimate. I've had claims where I have a blue bedroom in the estimate and Sandy's bedroom in the photos, and you can't figure out which bedroom goes where. So if you're dropping them in sketch and Xactimate, they will label properly, they will match the estimate, and they'll be in order, which is perfect. I'm going to touch also on the narrative, as everyone else has done. Again, just because it's a template doesn't mean you can't add to it or subtract from it. I have a lot of times I'll get a narrative where there's irrelevant information in there that has nothing to do with the claim and that you've left in just because it was on the template. If it doesn't apply, say NA does not apply something, and you can add to the narrative. You can always add more. You don't have to send the template. We don't want you to send the template. We want you to tell the story, exactly what's happening. And that's all I'm gonna say about the narrative. Estimates. Use F9 notes to explain things. There's a lot of cases where you will do a line item that, might not be typical or customary construction, or if you have paneling or you have drywall behind paneling, or you have 2 layers of flooring, those things need to be addressed in the F9 notes so the reviewer will know why you're doing what you're doing in the estimate. Why, and it makes sense for everybody. Keeps the file from being sent back later. Again, on the private flood piece, as far as differences, you're going to have situations where carpet and appliances are paid RCV. You'll have to watch that. I'll work with you. Those of you that are working the private flood, I'll help you. As Kathryn stated earlier, a copy of the policy is uploaded with each and every claim. I know that's a lot of reading. I know you guys don't want to sit and read a 30-page policy on every claim you're handling. I have some quick reference guides that I provide for each of the various underwriters that provide coverage with Wright Flood. Those are useful. They'll tell you which endorsements to look for, what things are RCV, ACV. We have a few policies also where contents are RCV, and not only that, but actually under $500. They're not even depreciated. So those things, like I said, are on a case-by-case basis that we will review as you're handling the claim. Another thing I want to touch on private flood is the timelines, and probably the most important of private flood. You've got your state statutory regulations in regards to payment or decisions on claims. Some states require a 30-day turnaround. Florida's now 60 days. Those are important. Now, a lot of NFIP adjusters are used to getting that 60-day proof of loss deadline and sometimes extended to 120 plus days. That is not the case with private flood. Those claims are required to be submitted right away, and certainly subject to state regulations in regard to timeline requirements. But the prelim, we want those prelims within the first week of receiving the assignment. You're required to contact the policyholder right away within 24 hours. Inspection is to take place right away, and final reports are expected within a week or two of the assignment. These are not claims that we can sit on as we do with NFIP, excuse me. Obviously during a storm, the carriers are good to work with. They understand extenuating circumstances, but we do our best to try to maintain the timelines that they ask for. I think that's about it. One more thing I wanted to touch on. Just kidding. Post firm elevated. I made a little note when Carolann was notating this. I had this situation quite a bit on Helene and Milton, where homeowners waited 30, 60, maybe more days to find out that they weren't getting any money. Do not do that to the homeowner, please. I even had some where the adjuster gave them a contents list to fill out that didn't have coverage. So there was that too. We do not want to make the homeowner wait. I understand you don't want to have the conversation in person, and I don't recommend it. We all know that can't be safe sometimes, but you have to have that conversation with the policyholder. Don't make me have it with them 60 days later after they call my WIO to complain that they never got a check or they got a check for $1,500. It is so important to have that conversation with them as quickly as possible. I don't recommend doing it before the inspection because then there's some lack of cooperation, generally speaking. But certainly once the inspection is completed, you make that follow-up phone call and you say, listen, so sorry, I reviewed your policy. You're in a high-risk zone. Your home is elevated, and here's the deal. Because those poor people are sitting around thinking they're getting a $100,000 check only to find after all those days and months of waiting that they're getting nothing. So they could have been working on getting, FEMA assistance, getting an SBA loan, a grant, something else. They could be salvaging items that might not necessarily need to be thrown away, that they're throwing away because they think they're covered. I cannot stress the importance enough of having that conversation earlier rather than later. That goes also for basement claims. We've got some basement claims up in New Jersey right now. Not a lot, unfortunately, but enough. And same thing, you need to have that conversation with them as a follow-up after your inspection. I think that's about it for now. I'm going to turn this back over to Brother Donald, and he's going to go over some NFIP guidelines for us.
Do that, Candice. I'd like to ask a question. So we've said that you don't have to have the FCN number to do private.
Correct.
You just have to have a property adjusting background
Well, an estate license.
and a state license.
Yes.
So we like if you don't have the FCN and you are an adjuster and you have your state license, to go ahead and please send your resume to adjusters at alliedamericanusa.com. And you could put on the top private, and that way we won't be looking for an FCN. Okay? All right. Listen, very good. Thank you. That was very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and carry on. Today's Friday. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Friday has that thing where it says, okay, hurry up and let's get over. So, you know what I mean? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about mostly what we need to and get into what we have to. The thing that's really important here is I'm stuck again. Hold on. Okay. Give me a break here. Okay. Now, so we're going to talk about the NFIP for the most part. And Sister Kathryn and Candice have already shared some things about the private. And we'll indicate throughout today on some things that's not, that may be private and may not be private. But for the most part, we're going to talk about the NFIP. Now, Gerry has already discussed some of this during his presentation. And I want to thank Gerry because he was real clear. As a matter of fact, everybody's been very, very clear on what they shared this morning throughout the presentation. And so contact to the policyholders within 24 hours. All of the information that we're going to talk about is in the claims manual, the NFIP claims manual. So just briefly, I'm not going to go through everything bit by bit, but the important things you need to know is that the inspection, 48 hours, preliminary report is due 15 days. That's what the NFIP wants. Now, Ms. Wright may want 6 days, 5 days. Gerry want his maybe in 4 days or however he wants them. But however he wants them is how he wants them. And remember, who's going to be paying your check? It's not going to be the NFIP, okay? It's going to be the carrier that you're working for. Narrative reports due every 30 days. Now, every 30 days is the requirement for a narrative report because the file isn't closed, apparently. But don't just send in a narrative report and just say, file still open. That is what everybody is saying when documenting the narrative. And of course, we'll be talking about that more as we discuss it this morning. The closing of a file is due hopefully within 45 days. That's what the NFIP would like to do, is close the file within 45 days. And if you go and get everything you need, do what you need to do, take care of the policyholders, a 45-day closure is just more than they could ask for. Appeals and suits. Now, it's important that you understand that a denial letter has to be sent to a policyholder when you're denying something. It has to be sent because that is what's going to start the appeals and a suit. 1 year from the date of denial, the denial letter is when a policyholder can file a suit. So they can't file a suit if you don't deny whatever it is that you're denying. And it has to be denied if you're not going to cover something. Payment to the policyholders due 7 days after closing the paperwork after the closing paperwork is received by the carrier. Now, the promise that Carolann talked about, 7 days after that closing paperwork comes in, there's a check that has to go out according to the NFIP within 7 days because we want to make sure that they're taken care of and they're not waiting 6 months for that to happen. Now, where to begin? In most cases, you're going to have to identify, especially with private flood and the NFIP and bankers as well, like who's the carrier, and make sure that the policyholder is named, make sure that it works, make sure that who you're talking to is the policyholder or someone on their behalf, and make sure that it's correct. You should be getting something from the company with the policyholder's name, number, address, and the location of the loss. And always identify, when you get that, you should also always make sure that that's who you're talking to or who's the responsible person that you're going to be dealing with. And so that you can make decisions with that person. Also, not like private flood, we do have two deductibles at the NFIP, one for building coverage and one for contents. And a lot of times it looks so stupid. I shouldn't say that. I apologize. I should never say that it looks so stupid. It looks dumb when you send in a report and noting that there's some contents where there's no contents coverage. I mean, you got policyholders holding things to the side, and you're going to be working a contents claim, but there's no coverage for contents. So therefore, you have the policyholders believing something that doesn't exist. And in every NFIP policyholder that we have, every NFIP policy that I've ever seen or known about, they have to purchase contents coverage in order to get paid for any contents. Okay. Now, and we'll talk about that more. Prior losses, as Gerry discussed, please, we have to note prior losses. And the thing about prior losses is if a claim happened in 2017 and it's 2025, and you're looking at a wallpaper from in the kitchen or the bathroom, and it's the same wallpaper, it's obvious that they didn't do some repairs in that area and that whatever it is, we're not going to pay for it again. And please note in the diary exactly, or your narrative, how you're going to handle that. Mortgage companies, verify the mortgage companies. Verify that this mortgage company is the only mortgage company, right? And that's going to be noted on the proof of loss. And mostly the narrative, if there's some issues with the narrative, I mean, with the mortgage company, and maybe there's an additional mortgage company. Also, we have to notify underwriting that there is an additional mortgage company so that we can make sure that we do what we have to do in protecting the mortgage companies, because the NFIP policy suggests that we're going to do that. Okay, so those are, and this is just a review on some things that we talk about. We've talked about this for the entire day, it appears. Everybody who came on before I did talked about the narrative report. So the first thing I'm going to say is read the narrative. Okay, it should speak to the claim. The adjuster should start out the narrative with some things that he's seen or identified, or some things that were not very clear as far as the property is concerned, and maybe the insured is having some issues as well. So those things should automatically be labeled and documented in the narrative. We already talked about the claim number and the date of loss and those things. Now, last year we had two dates of loss, if you remember correctly. Make sure which date of loss we're talking about. Okay, because if we got a lot of damage on the first date of loss and very minor damage on the second date of loss, that might take care of one claim or the other. So the companies will let us know how they want to handle those things, but we're going to identify them. Some things could be damaged on the first date of loss, but not on the second date of loss, or vice versa. But we want to be clear that the date of loss of the claims that we're handling with that claim number is the one that we're handling, and that everybody is okay and clear on exactly what it is. The loss location, that's real important. And we want to make sure that when we talk about the loss location, that we've identified that. Carolann made a point when she was talking about the loss location and photographs. Now, most of the times, it's really interesting that most people are taking the address, the number 6432, and taking a picture of that number, and that's one of the pictures that you're going to find. It'll take a picture of just the number, and that sometimes is all we have, is the picture of the number to the building, of the building. It doesn't have a picture of the street sign or anything like that, but we do have that number, and it doesn't have a picture of the entire front elevation of the property. But I just want to thank you for sending us the number, 4321. Great. And hopefully that is the loss that we're going to handle. It would be nice to have pictures of all the elevations, pictures of how the dwelling look all the way around. So in case something comes up, a question comes up 6 months later after you're gone, or the file goes into litigation, we'll have some information to at least do a proper documentation and litigation, and also to handle the claim because you're not there. And then we might have to go out, or if there's some changes to the claim, especially when we're talking about like ICC is now a part of that claim, and the elevations have changed, and so we need to know these things, right? Contact information, okay? Date, who we spoke to, who had the information, and let the file know. Tell the file exactly what's going on, where the flood handbook and the ICC brochure is delivered to the policyholder. And how were they delivered? Did you give them to them as the adjuster, or were they mailed from the carrier? Okay, that could be important later on as things are going on. But we know they have to be there, right? Now, adjusters are not supposed to get too deep with ICC. All we ask is that you identify that this house may be substantially damaged, and you explain that process to the policyholder and document that in your narrative as well. If they're not going to be at that risk at that location because of the damages to the structure, you might want to note in the narrative where they're going to be, get an email. Most carriers these days want the policyholder's email number, and I'm going to also suggest that maybe a cell number. During the time of the beginning of the laws is when everything is being asked of a policyholder, and they can give you all that they have at that time, because it's hard sometimes to get back in touch with them when you need that cell phone number or whatever is not listed there. Or perhaps you may want to get the cell phone number to the spouse or to a relative, and so that we can keep in touch with them and let them know what's going on. A temporary address. Now, that's really important, because if there's a location where they have to leave, they're going to be living somewhere. Where would that be? And if they're going to be at their sister's house or sister's location, well, we need to get a copy of that temporary address. So that, and another thing, that FEMA wants to send out an advance payment as quickly as we possibly can, and we can't send it to the house where the policyholders can't even get to the building. So we need to know where to send those things. So get that information in those first meetings that you have with policyholders, and to make sure that we have it, make sure that it's clear and that we can read it. And then the location lately in the state of Florida, uh, I'm going to say the state of Florida, because in Hurricane Ian, for instance, a lot of people from Europe was over because they had purchased a lot of the risk or the houses down in the area that was damaged. And so trying to get in touch with them was really difficult. Trying to talk to them and where they're staying. So we need to make sure that we can get them whenever we need them. And when you tell a policyholder you're going to call them back, please call them back. Even if you don't have the answer that you're looking for at that time, just call them back and let them know you don't have the answer, but you're still looking into it and you're still looking to get the answer. And if the answer is no, tell them no. Just tell them no. We can't do that. We talk to whoever, we talk to the company, and that no, we can't do that. At least they know that that's not, they don't have to be waiting for a no when we already know that the answer is no. Okay. Identify flood zones, firm dates, construction date, post firm, pre firms. Those are things that NFIP professional adjuster should be very aware of, and should be able to identify those things off of the loss notice that they get, to make sure that it's accurate and make sure that it's correct. And if not, then we need to identify those things and let the underwriting to the company know as well, so that we can get those things taken care of immediately and not later. Because if we get them taken care of now, that means that the underwriter's working on it, everything can get done. Because if you wait to the end of the claim, then the policyholder is going to have to wait for that to be resolved later. And it shouldn't have to wait for that, because we know about it up front. So please, and know the difference between a principal residence and a primary residence, okay? And to identify those things and to document those things, and to let everybody know that what you're doing. When the adjuster goes out and he talks to a policyholder, The first thing that he's doing is letting everybody know what's going to be happening or is happening on that claim, so that when the examiners pick it up, they got a good idea of what's going to happen or what is happening so that they know how to go forward with what's happening on it. You're building you're building valuations is primary. So we shouldn't have to sit here today to discuss what that is. Okay. And the narrative should also talk about the policyholder. The policyholder qualifies or does not qualify for RCV. Or what kind of a loss is it? We need to note that it's a single family dwelling, principal residence, uh, and what is being insured, right? A principal residence, and is it insured to 80% of replacement of that building? Um, that's one of the requirements that you have got to do. So, yeah, so that's one of the things that we have got to do. So you, as the professional, have got to get that information, get it right, and make sure that you understand it. We've been holding you here now for a good hour and a half. What I'd like to do is take about a good 5, 10 minutes and come back and we can continue at that time. So please just go ahead, take a break for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and we'll be right. Okay. I was looking at the number to make sure we're back. Okay. I had to take care of a telephone call real quick. So underwriting issues are very, very important. And once you identify the underwriting issue, that should be taken care of like right away. And the underwriters normally get back to us really, really quick with whatever the decisions and things like that are, because we can't take care of the claim and we can't pay the claim until we resolve that issue, whatever that is. All right. And I think some things go without saying, like we know that if there's no general condition of flooding, a GCF, then we don't even have a claim, which means we have now what? We have a CWAP. And how do we handle CWAPs? We're going to talk about that because that's really important. I think one of the most important things about a CWAP is the fact that we have to close that claim out and send something to the policyholders and deny the fact that it wasn't a covered claim so that they can go ahead and do what they have to do and get that out. And it needs to be fully explained and supported with photos. If you go to the property and there's no general condition of flooding anywhere around and you can't find water lines or anything like that, there's no flood, there's nothing there to let you know that the flood was there or GCF was there, then guess what? Uh, we need to document those and get those closed, as Gerry said, as soon as possible so that we can move on. And one of the things that FEMA loves to know when after the flood is over and the landfall and everything is moving along, and the next day they're going to be asking, how many claims do we have? And so getting those CWAPs out of the way will give them an idea that we've at least moving and closing some policies and claims, right? So we want to do that. We talked a little bit about prior loss histories. Those are things that you, the adjuster, and the examiner is going to have to take care of and make sure that we're okay and we can see eye to eye that yes, they did take care of the prior loss or no, they did not. An expert. Now, adjusters are not allowed as far as the NFIP is concerned, to to get an expert on a claim. But the carrier needs to know an expert is needed for a particular claim. And this is the reason why. And they need to let them know right away so they could get those claims taken care of again, so that we don't have to hold up the claim process. Because normally engineers, they start going out right after the storm, start looking at losses wherever that location is. If it's in Florida, they'll all be in Florida for the amount of time that needs to be done, right? So we need to get those experts taken care of. Okay. Now, so then we say that policyholders deserve a great claim experience. And I truly believe that. If there is such a thing, a great claim experience. First of all, they're standing in 4 feet of water in their house. They've never had this thing happen to them before. They just, got the last piece of furniture that they wanted to buy to set everything off. And now you got this water in there. And what we're asking from the adjusters is that we want you to be able to walk to their house. And when you do talk to them, be compassionate, understand what they're going through. Like at least let them know that, we're sorry for whatever happened and we want to really take care of you. And we want to take care of you to the best of our ability and be fair and give them what it is that we owe them. Now, normally we would suggest that we owe policyholders every dime that they deserve in a claim. Everything. We want to pay for everything that we owe for that claim. And we want to make sure that we explain to them what we are paying for and what we cannot pay for. And depending on, doesn't matter what they are or who they are or what their background is or what their cultural beliefs are, that has nothing to do with that claim. And so we want to make sure that all adjusters understand that. The consistency, systematic, fair, just, impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to undeserved communities that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life. Our goal, that doesn't matter. What we have at that number, at that house, at that risk, we owe you if you have coverage for it. And if you don't have contents coverage, we'll explain to you what we can do for you and go ahead and take care of that risk as soon as possible because they deserve that. It's a promise, as been noted by Carolann earlier. Come on here. Why are you stuck? Okay. Okay, now there's another part that came out that was called unconscious bias and social stereotype about certain groups of people that individual forms outside of their own conscious awareness. Basically, sometimes we don't even know that we have a problem with people of a different culture or a different, color or a different race or whatever it is. But what we're asking you to do is just be mindful of that, and don't let that sneak into your claim handling, okay? Because that's not what we're here for. We're not here because you are whatever you are. We're here to take care of that claim, and we ask that you do that. A justice must be respectful, compassionate, and knowledgeable of all the realities and experiences of policyholder, especially those who live in underserved communities. And so we don't have to get into does that happen or how many times it happens. That's not important. What's important is let's handle this claim on the basis of this claim. A justice provide exceptional customer service when handling claims by interacting with policyholders from a place of fairness and equity without judgment. And that's what we're asking you to do. I'm talking about the role of the adjuster and your responsibilities. And one of the things that you're going to do is go out, introduce yourself, show your FCN card or your ID, and let them know that you're there to take care of their claim. And you want to make sure that you see all the damages that you can. You want to make sure that you write the names of the rooms as was identified by Carolann earlier. Carolann's room, or if it's Candy's room, or Sister Kathryn's room, or is it Brother Gerry's room? We want to make sure that we identify them. And so that when anybody's reading that claim, everybody's going to have the same names for those different rooms. Okay. Now, because I tell you, if you go in there with the blue room, and by the time the reviewers come in from different places that they're going to come in and take a look at the claim, the blue room now may be white. You don't know. So just if you identify by the names, everybody can be okay. It is definitely forbidden for an adjuster to go out and make a policyholder thinks that he has authority. That is not your job to go out there and say, oh yeah, I'll make sure they pay you for this or that. That's not the authority of the adjuster. The authority of the adjuster is to make a recommendation to the companies that the damages that you've seen are either covered, not covered, or possibly covered because of the gray areas. And you are to document in your diary why you feel that they are covered. It's a general condition of flooding, and there's 4 feet of water as noted by the water line in photo number 15. No question. Therefore, I am recommending drywall, carpet, pad, and that's what you will do for that particular claim. Now, the private companies may have you do things differently, and those instructions you will get from Candice when she assigns that claim to you. Okay? All the adjustments are recommendations. There's no question about it. Your job also is to be accurate and follow the claims manual and the company's policies and have them pay or recommend to pay everything, every dime to the policyholders that is owed. Your job is to recommend that, and they will go with that. So once they review the file with all the documentation that you have and all of the notes in your narrative, they are going to go ahead and take care of that claim. And we ask for you to handle the claim promptly and timely, but we ask that you handle it making timely and with speed to get all damages that is to be recorded, not to go in, run through the house, tell the policyholders you have 4 more appointments before noon and that you got to meet your boss at 12 and go over some things and then go on the other side of town. That's not what we mean by speed. We're saying take your time, but when you get back to your hotel, we'd like for you to go ahead and start taking care of that claim and providing the documentation needed so that the examiners, once they review the claim, they can get it pushed through and take care of it. Knowledge of the NFIP for the carrier. Now, the NFIP says, we want you to take care of the claim. We want you to handle the claim in this fashion. Gerry may say, I want you to handle this claim in this fashion. When you come to water restoration, we want you to do this, that, and the other thing. Okay? The standard flood insurance policy, your job as the adjuster is to know the policy. To make sure that you know the policy. I don't know how to stress it more, because what happens is you have got to get with a policyholder, and if they have a question, go through it and go to the page or go to that coverage and explain to them how it applies to the damages that you're looking at. So we want you to really know the policies. the dwelling policy, the GP policy, and the RSC policy. And then take a look at and make sure that you have your manual. You really should be taking your manual with you. So if you need to, then you could go to the manual, show them some information, or whatever it is that you need to do. And the flood insurance manual is really the underwriting manual. That's what we call underwriting. And you should, as an adjuster, have that as well, because you need to know how to describe damages, how to describe the properties, and how to make sure that you're looking at the correct uh, house and you're looking at the correct structure, and that what is on the loss notice is exactly what you're looking at. And then you might need to look at the flood insurance manual for that. Okay. Related bulletins will come out during the storm if there's something that's going to come out. Okay. Now there are some bulletins that are still available, but most of them are not. But whatever's coming up during that particular event, you're going to get a copy of it. One of the bulletins that come to mind that is being used and has been used for a while is A1303A, right? Okay. So know what you need. Get yourself all of the documents that you need. Put yourself in a folder or a notebook or something so you have it when you go to talk to the policyholders. And we got this little note here about educate the policyholders. And when we say educate the policyholders, we want you to show them what that promise that Carolann said earlier. This is the promise. This is what you bought. This is the coverage. This is the policy. And here it is here on what we're going to pay you, or what we're going to recommend to the company or carrier to pay you. All right. Now, and you have to know your private carrier policies as well. As Candice stated to you earlier, whenever she sends you a loss, she's going to send you a copy of that policy for that company, and also some notes that she's put together that you should be aware of when you go out to do your inspection and to also talk to policyholders. Okay. And the justice should be able to communicate essentials, right? You need to spend time, whatever time you need to spend, how much time you need to spend, and at least make it real clear. Now, I know, and you know, sometimes you get to a policyholder's house, they just want to keep you there all day, fix dinner for you and all kinds of things, and you know you got work to do. But if you explain to them, let them know that you're going to take care of their damages and that you have right now all that you need to take care of it, then you will be in touch with them shortly. But you first have to go back to the hotel. You got to write it all up. You got to send it, to examiners and places like that. So, and you just got things that you're going to have to do. I'm sorry. You got things that you're just going to have to do in order to get things right. And as soon as you get things together, you will be in touch. And please, we ask that you don't give false dates and times that you're going to do it. I should have this together about 12 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Now, you know, and I know Saturday afternoon at 12 o'clock, you out and reviewing files and you're out writing up estimates and stuff like that. That's not a realistic time for you to even consider. So we ask that you just let them know whenever you're going to do something. And if you can do it, then do it. And if you can't do it within those time frames or whatever, then call them, let them know, so they'll have a good idea of what's happening. I don't know what to do. All I have is this card the adjuster gave me. He told me he would be in touch with me by now. The next thing they're going to do is call their agent. So if you're going to have an issue or something like that, you can't get with the policyholder, call the policyholder's agent. Let him know that you tried to get in touch with him, but you need a little bit more time, something that you can help them out with. Now, usually when there's a storm, Candice and I may be in the same room or something, and she's got all these calls coming in and all of these little notes being slipped under the door and things like that. And she'll say, can you call this guy? Can you call this guy? She's asking me to call these people up. And so I call them up and they're already excited. And, then I got to calm them down. And the only reason they're excited is because you told them that you would be there yesterday. That's the only reason they're excited. So if you'd have told them you'll be there when you can get there and to be there when you say you're going to be there, we never would have got that note slipped under the door with somebody who's already upset. And I know how they feel because that's how I am too. When you tell me you're going to do something. All right. So the NFIP really don't discuss supplements anymore to policyholders. We do what is called a RAP, a request for additional payments. And I think what's really good this morning when Sister Carolann said that an estimate is an estimate. And we need to let policyholders know as soon as we can that this estimate is what that is. And so if everything that I wrote down is not going to cover your loss, then we can do a RAP, a request for additional payments, which means I could either come out or you could have a contractor send me some things if I missed it on for this estimate. And the companies will be more than happy to take care of you because remember, we owe them every dime for the damages that they have. And we really want to take care of that. All right. Always provide a copy of the estimate to the policyholders and agree scope. So that they have an idea of what we're doing, so they could tell their contractor what's going on, right? And for advance payments, as you heard earlier, please, FEMA wants money on the street. We want to get an advance payment out as quickly as we possibly can. And we want you to document that. And we want you to make the recommendations of what that advance payment is going to be. That's one thing that the adjusters do have the authority to do is make that recommendation to send policyholders $20,000, right? So, and to confirm the payment. One of the other important people in the entire process is the examiner. When you read the WYO company, the right to own companies, and the NFIP servicing agent, they have the authority, the examiners that work for them have the authorities to pay claims. They're the only people that has that authority. Because what happened is the program said that the only person that can pay a claim is the administrator. Well, there's one administrator, and if all they did was just write checks and pay claims and make the authority, so he couldn't do anything else. So he's given the authority to the WIL companies for their examiners to review the claim, to confirm coverage, and make determinations from what the adjuster has sent to them. So I hope you understand how important these things are. The adjuster goes out, writes the estimate, and makes sure that he gets all the estimate all the damages on his estimate that he could get, so that he could get that in and send it in to the examiners. The examiners take their time, review what the adjuster wrote, and try to make sense of it if they have to, but make sure that they can cover the damages and understand what we have so that they can request a payment to be made for that policyholder. Okay. Or maybe there's going to be a denial because the adjuster said there's no general condition of flooding, there's no damage here. And so the examiner looked through the file, make sure that they don't see any damages as well from what's been sent in. Okay. So that's what they do. And I think that job is so important. And it's that's why when we get people in that want to be examiners for us, what they have to understand is they are going to be making payments or making the requests for payments to policyholders. So they have to know what they're reading, what the adjuster is talking about, and go ahead and make it. So if you don't understand the standard flood insurance policy, if you don't understand what coverages are for that dwelling or for that risk, then we have a problem. So if you go and you think that they have 5 refrigerators in this house, well, do we owe for 5 refrigerators in that house? If we do owe for 5 refrigerators in that house, then we pay for 5 refrigerators in that house. You don't argue and say, we only pay for 1 refrigerator. No, you need to know the coverages. You need to understand the coverages in order to do something. Okay. Now, so the adjuster's job is to give you all the damages that they see when they go out to inspect. The examiner is to read through the policy, make sure that it makes sense, make sure that there's no prior losses, and if so, it's been documented and everything is okay, and they're fine with that, and whatever else is needed. And the examiner is going to be the one that's going to be the last one to say to the companies, especially from Allied's point of view, we can pay this claim. And when the company pays the claim, they should be comfortable knowing that we've looked at the claim, we made sense of it, and we're comfortable with everything the adjuster sent in, that we should be able to, in good faith, pay that claim. If we have a question, then we could talk to the adjuster. We can call the adjuster and say, I'm not clear about this. And then he can give you that information, whatever it is. And then at that point, the examiners can make their recommendation to pay the claim or not pay the claim, or whatever that question is that they have. Okay. And the examiners must know the manual. They have to understand it. And they must be very, very aware of three policies that's there. And so I think I need to explain something too. So I left FEMA a couple of years ago, and I still have friends at FEMA. And one of the things that I talk to them about is like, what's going on? What kind of issues are you having on claims? And one of the issues that they were talking about recently is general property claims. General property claims, they have a feeling that either the adjusters and or the examiners don't really know what to get or what to do when they go and get a lease. So they're saying they're not documenting in their diaries, in their narratives, who purchased what belongs to who. If that general property is has been purchased by the owner and he has put some walls or some things into that property and although he's renting it out, but he's the only one that has purchased things to go in, then the lease should identify that, which means that we should only pay the owner for whatever it is that's in there, additional walls or doors or whatever that is. Now, if he just put up a structure and the leasee or the renter went out and purchased drywall and paint and doors and bathroom fixtures to do what he wanted to do in his office or whatever, then we would have to make sure that the lease says that those things should be paid by the renter or the leaser. So you as the adjuster and you as the examiner need to communicate to find out who are we paying and what do I have to suggest that I'm paying the correct person. So we need to do a little better job on making sure that we understand the GP policy and what it covers and how it covers it. Okay. And effectively communicate that coverage to policyholders and understanding, to underwriting if we need to, and to the carrier to know exactly what it is that we're going to pay for. So the adjuster goes out, does his inspection, comes back, writes everything up, makes sense of the entire amount of damages and where the damages are, and very comfortably sends it in and says, this is my recommendation for the damages to policyholder H2O, and we should be fine. And the examiner reviews that and is comfortable with all the notes, all of the diary information, and says, we have everything we need to make a payment to the policyholder and try to get that done as quickly as possible. When a file is looked at, there are certain documentation that has to be in the file if it's needed. We don't suggest you just put things in the file just because, we have you went through the manual and they noted all of this stuff. The flood control number, which is the number to the adjuster that's working the file, should be there. And what he's authorized to do. If he's a dwelling adjuster, then he should be looking at nothing but dwellings. No general property claims, no RC BAP claims. All he can look at is what he's been authorized to do. Policy number, prior losses, deck pages, and all of that information should be there. Preliminary report should be in the file because there's a date that it has to be there. Scope notes should be there. And if there are no scope notes, and the diary should suggest why not. Why are there no scope notes in this file, right? Progress notes, what's going on here? Photographs, we'll talk about those in a minute. Copy of the estimate, whatever should be there. Sometimes you might need an elevation certificate. You never know, but you might. And the policyholder may have a copy of one. So then that's what you would do. Evaluation for contents, for the building. You also have to get into the inventory. Where are these items or where were they? And do they have contents coverage? Please. If they don't have that, then you don't need to go any further with it, right? And then make sure that the reserves are updated. make sure that the adjuster is sending in updated reserves. And if you, the examiner, find that this amount of reserve that he has here is just not enough, write him a note, contact him, let him know. You're talking about the evaluation is $80,000, but you're sending in a reserve for 60,000. That's not going to go. That's not going to work. We need to get that information correct. Okay. What about ICC? Do you understand what that is? Do you know what that is? The adjuster, do you know what it is? And what is it that you need to do when you know what that you do have a building that's possibly substantially damaged? How do you identify, how do you notify anybody and get that information out as quickly as possible? And you, the examiner, if you see something that is substantially damaged or you think it is substantially damaged, then you can contact the adjuster or you can go ahead and get that information to the proper party, right? So that everybody understand what needs to be done. So any documentation that is needed should be in the file, should be also documented why we need that information and why you went to get it so that everybody's aware of that. Confirm the general condition of flooding. To me, you can't do anything unless you've confirmed a general condition of flooding because there's nothing else to do. If you don't confirm the general condition of flooding, do you have a claim? FEMA has approved adjusters to handle things by their opinion or their judgment, however you want to call it. And what they're saying is, since you, the adjuster, was out looking at the damages or these items, then you should be able to let the file examiner know that these things should be repaired or replaced or at least addressed. You, the adjuster, should be able to do that. You should document the file so that there's no question about it. So when the examiner gets that, they can go ahead and make those recommendations as well on why we're paying for some things that the adjuster suggested that we should. And if that judgment is not documented, then we have a problem. We don't, so we're trying to pay for something and we don't even know if it's really damaged or not, or whatever your thoughts are as the adjuster. So you need to let us know the building scope and the estimate. The scope should really be something that makes sense. When you walk into the risk and you start writing down your notes to do your scope, then follow along a path that you're going to go. Go to the right and make the damages and write down the damages and what it is that you see, how high the water is and how high you're going to go with whatever, how much painting we're going to have to do in that dwelling, how much a drywall do we need to just we got a 2 feet water line. Are we going up to 4 feet for the drywall? We're going to paint, just going to keep going through that room until you finish whatever needs to be done there. You have carpet. How much is the carpet? What grade is the carpet? And things of that nature. The policy holder hold back a piece of carpet for you to take a look at so that you can make a recommendation on the carpet that we're going to be getting for the policy holder and the estimate, and keep going to the next room and identify the room, identify what is damaged those 2 feet, and keep going around the risk, throughout the risk, identifying the rooms and the damages that you have there, and do a scope that makes sense. So when someone comes in and they reevaluate the numbers, that you did a proper scope and that we are paying the proper amount. And so when you do your estimate, then we're kind of comfortable that we're going to be taking care of the damages that you saw when you went to that risk and you looked and got all of your documentation so that we can make a recommendation or a payment to a policyholder. And the only thing that we have to be concerned about is some open items, perhaps, that we might have to come back to because we couldn't see if there were damages in certain locations or something. But we're comfortable right now. We have enough information with the scope, your estimate, that we could send a check to the policyholder with what we have. They send it to their contractor, and then we'll be out to look for some other things. Water height. You don't see water height in the flood claim. A lot of people suggest that you don't have a claim. I'm one of those. If you don't identify water heights inside of a risk, outside of a risk, we question whether or not there is a flood claim. So you, as the adjuster, your job is to find that water height, let us know, identify it, market pictures, photographs, we need to confirm we have a general condition of flood. And if you can't do that as the adjuster, then we got a problem. We have a real problem. And so the policyholder is waiting on a check, and we're saying that we're not sure you even have policy. The adjuster didn't send us any pictures with water or anything in there. We didn't have no water. Oh no. Here, well, let me send you some pictures. And they sent us pictures, 2 feet of water in the risk. Why you didn't get in. Now, I can understand why you don't have the pictures, but some policyholders, once they get into the house, they clean up real quick and fast. I get that. We get that. But if they took those pictures on the day of the loss and the water came in, went right out, 2 feet, then you should have gotten those pictures from that policyholder so we could have paid them. Okay. And room by room, we need to do room by room. And Gerry was talking about special limits of liability and things like that. The format of the estimate should be room by room. We use unit costs. Accurate description of the rooms is really, really important. Um, Offsets on the rooms. If you go into a room and there's closets or things that are offsetting on that room, you're going to have to acknowledge those things and make sure that you identify them and deduct or add where is needed for those offsets or additions for that room. That's your job, and to make sure that we're going to give them everything that they need, line by line, line by line, line by line. We do not do anything where we go in and take the whole depreciation from the whole room, 20%. And the other thing that we really are having a problem with those 10% depreciations when it looked like the carpet's been there since 1942 and they got 16 kids. Come on, it's not 10% depreciation, right? And sales tax. Sales tax is really important. FEMA wants to see that we're paying sales tax. So we need you to identify that so that when the examiners look at it, that we're going to put in the accurate amount of sales tax. And please make sure that you take the time to go into your system. If you was in New Jersey last week and you're down in Florida this week, things are different. Like the rate for uh, uh, doing work is more, I'm sure, in New Jersey than in some places, some other places. The sales tax is going to be different. So make sure that you go into your system and put things accurately. Again, why? So we can pay the policyholder. Remember to be consistent and accurate. That's what we want to do. And we just talked about sales tax. Sales tax, all taxes, local sales tax, be paid for all goods, services as part of the eligible claim payment. It's subject to applicable depreciation as well. But please, if you don't indicate that, the policyholder is looking for that in most cases, especially up in New Jersey. I think I heard somebody mention that earlier. If they don't see that, then your whole estimate is, according to them, is no good, right? Contents loss payment. Now, again, this is a whole separate coverage with a whole separate deductible, and the policyholders must purchase this coverage if they want to have their contents loss covered. Now, your job is to go out and do what Kathryn said earlier. You're going to have to go out there, open up those plastic bags, look inside, making sure that those contents items that they're asking for are covered. Now, I you have to admit, you see a lady and she has 150 bags, pocketbooks, shoulder bags, or whatever they are. And I would at one point, I would say, you got to be crazy. Ain't nobody got no 150 pocketbooks or whatever that is. You know what? For a lady to have that these days is probably less than what they have because they buy a pocketbook every time they go buy a store, right? So we got it, but we need to make sure that the quality that they're talking about, the name brands that they're doing, that we got some kind of documentation because we want to make sure that we pay them. Now, a lot of times, I believe that the adjuster has what we call adjustment responsibilities. Your job when you walk into a house and you look around, you can see that this person definitely buys the best. They're going to pay for everything at Saks Fifth Avenue, not like going to Marshall's like I do, right? So if their house or their what they're doing or what they're wearing, I see that they are going to it just reeks of expenses and stuff. document that so there's no question about it later. And if they have all of those name brand items, then make sure you let everybody know because we're going to pay them. We want to pay them. Okay. And those ladies who pay that money for those 150 bags that they got in their closet that dropped on the floor that day of the flood, we're going to have to take care of them. And more than likely, they do not want them to go to service masters to get redone. So let's do what we have to do to make everybody satisfied with their claim. And that means being diligent and taking photographs, getting the qualities and things like that, so that we can pay them accordingly. Okay. And document what you have and where they were. Okay. And let everybody know that there's quality there. So it's important that we handle them with the expertise that you are and the professionalism that you are, so that we could take care of that claim, pass it on, and get paid and pay the policyholders, and then you get paid. Now, I don't know if anybody told you, but Ally tries to pay you every week. We don't try to, we normally pay adjusters and examiners every single week. So, and but you got to close some claims. That's we don't just give you a check every week, but we got to pay some claims. Document and photograph prior to disposal of the contents, right? So what you want to do as soon as you get there, if you see the contents, take a picture of things, especially high-priced items or things that are that look like they're really expensive. Take a picture of those kinds of things, right? And ask the policyholder to help you and set things aside that you might need to come back for later and to get some information if everything is sitting outside. But policyholders are really willing to help you if you go there with the right attitude and to make sure that you get what it is that you need so they can get paid. Okay, request the policyholders as soon as possible and review the prior or do what you need to do with the inspection. Let's get these people taken care of. Some people say that contents claims are the slowest claims because policyholders want to make sure that they get enough on the risk, so they hold back on the contents claim so that they could get more money. I'm not going to say that that's the case. They get more money on the contents claim. We do know that we need to get these claims closed as quickly as possible, as we do for the property claim, so that the policyholders are taken care of and we can move on and do what we have to do for the next storm. And advise the policyholders to protect undamaged property. We've taken pictures, we verified that it's not damaged, so we don't want to have it damaged next week or the next month or 6 months from now. Contents manipulation. There is some possible coverage for contents manipulation, but you got to be very careful with this one. Okay, first of all, it has to be undamaged contents, and the person has to have contents coverage as well. So if there's some contents in a part of the risk that needs to be repaired, but that contents needs to be removed so that the house can get repaired, then yes, you can pay to get that contents manipulated or moved. Now, it doesn't apply to non-insured property. Cannot be a lump sum. Oh yeah, this looks like about $500 worth of contents in this room. No, that doesn't work. And cost for packaging and storage and damages, that's not covered either. But what is covered is to go in and relocate that contents to another location so that the repairs can be done in that location where the contents is located. Proper depreciation of labor, materials, equipment, including O&P, is what's expected. Okay, so and your manual has information on this as well, so you could get into that for that. But when the adjuster sends over their paperwork to the examiners, these are things that the examiner is going to be looking for to make sure that the depreciation is in line, to make sure that we're paying what we're able to pay in terms of depreciation and items, and that we want to make sure that we do a good job with that. Contents is definitely depreciated. I don't know any item in contents that's not. So if they have contents coverage, we should see some depreciation. And we don't want everything to be 6% depreciated, 7%. If it's 20 years old and a chair or whatever, let's do let's do the appropriate amount of depreciation on that. Unless you see something that's different, and let's do that. There is no such thing as a lump sum depreciation in the program. So please don't even add it to your estimate because it doesn't exist. Documentation is important. And if you see some things that you want to pay and you want to up the depreciation or lower the depreciation, document that so that the file reflects what your thoughts are and what you're thinking. Okay. And it should be reasonable too. And it should be based on age and condition. That's usually how you come up with what is depreciation, how depreciation is. In most states, in some states where we have flooding usually regularly, it appears to be regularly. It's not really regularly, but if it floods again in Florida this year, there's going to be some representation. There's going to be some representation. Last year and the year before we've been here, and it's been increasing. Representation has been increasing. Some policyholders say, I don't want to deal with anybody. I don't want to deal with the adjuster. So they go out and they get people to help. You're going to need a letter of representation, and it must include the policyholder's full name, address, date, birth, and the place of birth, name of the representative, a statement authorizing them to do whatever they're supposed to be doing and to act on behalf of the insured or the insured and to get whatever is to be released. But you need documentation in your file when you start talking about a policy representation for a claim. And the policyholder must be notified. Policyholder signature must be notarized or included in the following statement. They must say something to the effect of, I declare under penalty or perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. If it's not notarized and that statement is not there, then we don't believe that we have proper representation notification at that time, and we'll just deal with the policyholder. Public adjusters or PAs. They must be licensed for that state that they're in or what they're trying to work the claims in. And they must also send out some kind of documentation to the file saying that they are working on behalf of the insurer. And so they want some information from you. And what we suggest is if you ever write a PA or an attorney or whomever they are, we ask that if you write to them, that you make sure that you CC the policyholder. Okay. Verbal communication. If you have a phone call with an attorney or text or whatever, please make sure that you document that in your file and go a step further. Write back to whomever you spoke to and sort of reiterate the conversation. And this is what we talked about, and this is what we said that we would do, and you do, or however that goes. Okay. So it's important that we do that because we want to make sure that they don't say some things that they said that we said, and that's not really good or comfortable for us. So we want to make sure we handle it like that. Okay. Countertops. Countertops are a little sticky issue here. Now, it's continued, as you can see, so we had some other conversation about it. So FEMA says, look, it's clear that we're going to have some issues with countertops. You make sure that that's the first one. There you go. So I'm sorry, y'all. I knew that continued should be continued and not the first slide. Okay, so the adjuster, your job is to document the condition of the countertops and the toilets and the sinks and all of the things that would encounter a countertop, right? And you are to suggest that these items were there, although the flooding did not, the actual water did not damage the countertops, but the counter or the cabinets, the vanity, all of those things are damaged by or from flood, and it was a result of this general condition of flooding that occurred on this day and this time. So therefore, we're going to have to remove those things, and therefore we're going to have to replace probably some countertops because of the damage that they received as a result of us replacing the sinks, and the different sinks and things like that. Well, we know they weren't damaged from the flood, but they are damaged to as a result of the incident, let's say. So with reasonable care, they did all they could do as a contractor. They did everything they could. They really tried hard, but those countertops broke anyway. That's the case, then we need some documentation for the file, right? You must uh, take some clear photos of the damages at the point of occurrence and sign a detailed statement from removal/repair, the person who's doing it, a detailed explanation of the actions taken to remove the items, how they damaged, how the damage was occurred, and if they're salvageable. So those are the things that we're going to have to get from somebody on this claim, and hopefully the adjuster, because that's who's out there looking at these countertops and stuff. And once the documentation is received, the adjuster adjust the claim accordingly and make sure that the policyholder gets what they need. And appropriate credit should be reflected. Documentation in the file should be clear, concise, and that everybody knows what's going on. And if there is no payment recommended by the adjuster, a detailed explanation should definitely be available for that file, for that policyholder. Okay. And we're going to ask that you really take a look at the claims manual for the information here, because in most cases, we might have to change the countertop. And if we have to do that, there's no problem with it. But make sure that we're doing it and that you explain why we're doing it as the adjuster, and the examiner has taken a look at that as well. HVAC. I think one of the things about the HVAC that really gets me is we're not going to pay the cost to relocate, or if it wasn't in the attic before the storm, we're not going to pay to put it in the attic after the storm. Okay, so and we're not going to pay to match the undamaged interior exterior unit because we only pay for direct physical loss by or from the flood. So if it's not damaged by the flood, there's no way that we're going to pay for it just to match it. That's not happening. Okay. The old units not compatible with the new replaced units. EPA laws regarding AC refrigerator type. The only compliance that we would work with in a flood claim is ICC. Everything else, it has to be damaged by the flood in order for it to be considered. Existing undamaged HVAC components operating below the higher efficiency of a new replacement unit, we're not going to pay for any upgrades in these situations. So make sure we document it accordingly. Now, in the state of Florida, especially in the state of Florida, there's a lot of generators, and I understand it because, people want to make sure that they keep their houses cool and warm in the wintertime and cool in the summertime. So they go out and they buy a generator. And so they have it on their property in case something goes off or wrong or something. They have immediately energy again for their houses and electricity. Now, as far as the flood is concerned, it's considered a contents item. Now, the NFIP says any contents item has to be in a enclosed situation. And enclosed means something like the insured generator on the right, where it's been enclosed with three sides and the four sides and the top. So that's an enclosed contents item. So that generator would be an insured generator, and it will be covered for payment. Okay. The one that's sitting out looking all pretty the generator, anyway, that generator on the left is not going to be covered because it's sitting out in the open and it's just not covered. So the policy is real clear about these things. If it's enclosed, covered. If it's not enclosed, there's no coverage for it. Okay. Gerry was talking about this earlier as well. Manufactured homes and mobile homes. Now, There are some new, I think last year they came out with some mobile home guidance and worksheets and things like that. The NADA has to be used as described earlier when Gerry was talking. And so there's one other thing that we're going to say, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on manufactured mobile home or trailer travel worksheets. All I'm going to say is this. If you don't know what you're doing with a mobile home, we ask that you don't do it. Okay? If you don't have anybody to assist you, if you don't know the makings of the mobile home and how they work and how to do the proper evaluations of mobile homes, travel trailers, we just simply say, ask, send that back to whoever gave it to you and ask for a dwelling uh, form so that you can handle that. Because obviously there's a lot involved in manufactured homes, travel trailers. And if you don't know what you're doing, you get out there, you're not going to give the policyholder the right work that they need or the right amount of money that they need. So just keep that in mind, please. Adjusting tips. Your job, the adjuster, is to do a proper building evaluation. Make sure that the mobile home add-ons are all incorporated into what you're doing, into your final evaluations. Additions and extensions, you as the NFIP adjuster has to understand what additions and extensions are and the FRID part of a file, which means that an addition or an extension connected to a building with the right connection can also receive coverage, through the NFIP. The demo setup and deliveries of things that possibly could be considered. Know what the post from elevated restrictions that may apply or may not apply, but make sure that you document those things when you're talking about these claims, these mobile home claims. So please, if you don't know, we ask that you don't do it, okay? Of course, to disconnect and reconnect. And if you don't know, please. Okay, now, Gerry mentioned this earlier, non-waiver agreements and reservation of rights. Adjusters will never do a reservation of rights. That is the job of the company. But what you will do is you will go to a loss and you would look at it and you would say, this risk, according to the loss notice, should be elevated, but it's slab on grade. That doesn't look right. Then you have an issue. And that issue needs to be resolved. You need to let underwriting know, and you need to take care of it. You need to also explain to the policyholder exactly what it is that your issue is. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to complete a non-waiver agreement. And you're going to document exactly what your issues are. And you're going to tell the policyholder that I would love to investigate this loss, but there's an issue. And if you sign this non-waiver, I can continue investigating the loss. And they say, okay, fine. And then you go do what you have to do, send everything to underwriting. But if they say no, then you can't do anything else. Get the non-waiver signed, send it in, and suggest that the policyholder would not allow you to, so the policyholder would not sign the non-waiver, and therefore you're not able to investigate this loss at this time. Okay? The documentation must be specific why you are doing a non-waiver. And the reason has to be noted. Okay. And so that's how we do that. Claims manual and messaging. Okay. Got a couple of more minutes and we'll be finishing up here. And I thank you all for holding in with us. A flood in progress, things that you must know. Flood in progress, PII, SPII, the NFIP claims manual. We talked a little bit about the flood insurance manual and also the program. The program has been around for a while, but here I think we're talking about the NFIP, contractor, handles the NFIP claims, not the WYO. Oh, that's the direct. I'm sorry. So WIO, which are the companies that participate in the NFIP program and the NFIP Direct program, that's the FEMA claims that's handled here. But for handling claims, period, in the NFIP, we ask that you please get a copy of the claims manual, download it so that you'll have a copy when needed, when you need to do that. Another thing that's really important these days is you have to understand what is PII and SPII. You cannot have pictures of policyholders, of their kids, or any of that in your file. Any information that permits the identity of any individual to be directly or indirectly inferred, including any other information like driver's license or things like that, cannot be in a claim file, the NFIP claim files. So we ask that you please pay attention to what it is that you're trying to put in there. And I know a lot of people, when they were trying to do, is this a permanent resident or otherwise, they were trying to add pictures of driver's license without redacting them. Then that became a problem. So whatever company you're working for, they're going to let you know what you can put in their files for personal identifiable information, okay? And we ask that you pay attention to that. And one of the things for that is that those are the things that make policyholders comfortable that we're protecting their privacy and their personalities and things like that, okay? And it one way to earn the trust of the public. And so we ask that you really pay attention to that because it's really important. And that if you do driver's license or passports or something and you put that in your file, that you redact that information before submitting it to your carrier or to, and so the examiners should make sure that those things are taken care of and done properly. And but if we need some things, we ask that you make sure that you get them. And so the adjusters have been pretty good about getting information to put in the files and getting them so that we can make the payments that needs to be paid, but make sure that we protect that policyholder's identity. That is foremost, the most important thing. Now, I think this is my last, if it's not my last topic, it's almost the last topic. And I made it the last topic because we get tired of talking about it, you get tired of hearing about it, and we get tired of not seeing it. So we're going to talk about photographs. Now, photographs. If you don't, like I said earlier, if you don't have photographs with waterline in your file, in your final report, then some people would suggest that you don't have a proper claim, that you didn't do or that you should have done. Okay, photographs. Now, the maximum exterior and minimum exterior water lines. We should have pictures of those. We have to have that. We need to know the extent of damages. And that's one thing that's going to tell us the extent of damages. And so we need that. Multiple water lines inside the house. If we have two, and sometimes houses, as you go in, you step down to another level or something. You'd be on the living room floor, you go down to the dining room, you step down, you may step up, or whatever the case may be. So we may have water lines in both of those rooms in different elevations within that house. You need to make sure that you put that in your file, document those things. And if every different water line should be documented with photographs, okay? All elevations should be documented with photographs. And not only documented with, well, they should, when we say documented with photographs, we're talking about tell us what you're taking. Like this elevation is of the rear or the right elevation of the property, and the water line is 14 inches or whatever it is. But you need to tell us, because that mind of yours, which is actually wonderful and great, and I know that your IQ is way up there. We could just tell, but we don't know what that picture is that you just took. And that is not very helpful for someone who's trying to get a picture, that's trying to get a payment to the policyholders. So we really need you to do that. So it's important that you do that, okay? So please make sure that you write down what it is that you're doing. Okay, then If it's undamaged, you go into the room and it's just completely undamaged. No water line, no water damage anywhere in there. Take a picture of that. Make sure that you note that so that everybody's aware that that room was not, and the policyholder agrees. There's no damage in here. Okay. There's contents. Take pictures of the contents, especially items that are expensive, uh, things that are important, or things that are going to be you can't tell what it is. We need to know, and you need to let us know what that is. Curbside debris. Now, a lot of times when there's an event, the community says to policyholders and communities, please put your debris next to the curb and we'll pick it up on Wednesday. If that's the case, it would be nice to have good photos of things that have been damaged, set out to be removed by the community, and we will be paying stuff, but we want to make sure that we're paying a couch that looks like it's 14 years old, if it is. And if they just bought it last year or last month, then that couch should look like it's a new couch, but it's just damaged by the water. So please take the pictures, identify what it is, document that these are new. This was a new couch that the policyholder bought 6 months ago. If we need to identify things with to underwriting, a picture's worth 1,000 words if you have an issue there. So please take a good picture, document what's going on, and keep it moving. Okay. Uh, and again, avoid those pictures with PII. Now, I want to draw your attention to the right photograph, the top right photograph. It looks like, I don't know what. You need to understand that that particular picture is supposedly a lamp that costs $3,500. So I'm told. So I'm told. And the adjuster didn't say anything about the lamp. He just took the picture and put it in the file. Well, when the examiner saw that and they sent it back to the company or whoever they sent it to, and they said, what is this? And he explained what it was. Hmm. So you could imagine the conversation that went on about that particular photograph, and also how much payment should be made to the policyholder for buying something like that's not funny. Anyway, but yeah, so make sure that you document what it is. And the photograph on the bottom, now that took me for a while to understand what that is. Well, the brown on the right side is the floor, and then the gray and the white on the left side of the bottom photographs is the wall. Isn't that a wonderful picture to have in your file to have to pay a claim? Please make sure you are aware of what it is that you're sending in. Your name is on there. And you know, the thing that's funny about people is if an examiner sees a certain adjuster's work and it's good, then when they get that file or when they're looking for work to do, they go get his work or her work to go through it because they know it's going to be clean. They know there's not going to be a lot of questions. They know they're going to have all the answers they need. They know that he's done everything that he needs to do to get that claim paid. So they want to get paid too. So what they want to do is get that adjuster's work and look at it. But if they have to go get this adjuster's work and nobody knows what it is, then he might not get paid till the storm is over 6 months later. That's not true. We don't do that. Anyway, photographs and photographing the loss. You know, you heard Carolann earlier talk about you want 4 elevations and that means elevations are like the front of the house, sides of the house, the rear of the house, and anything in between where there's some questionable gray areas. But this is normally what we get. This is what we get. We usually get 932, 9332. That's what we get. And so we believe that it may be the address of the building, we hope. And so that's what we get. That's what we're sending in, just that. And so we also need to, when you write it, you might want to put 9332 Main Street, the location of the risk or something. Tell us something. Photograph the building damage in the same order of the scope. Wouldn't that be great? Right? And some people do that. Some people really do. Take meaningful photograph and then document what the damages or the non-damages are. Address contents damage the same way. And take proper photos of number of photos to support the scope and the claim. 600 photos of nothing. And when we talk about documentation of the photos, we're talking about something like this, right? Photo number one, the right front bedroom. It was taken on 1/2/2022 at 1 p.m. by Jane Adjuster. Wow, thanks, Jane. Now, this is a overview of the right front bedroom, flood-related damage to the room. Carpet contents have been removed, which makes complete sense to me. And so that is what we want to see. Those are the things that we're looking for about the photographs and what the damages are to that room. Okay? All right. Now, I just really want to talk to you a little bit about takeaways. One of the things that we want you to understand is if you're going to come work for Allied, and we really would love to have you working with us, if you're going to work with us, please let your other company know that you're working for, that you've decided to only work for Allied. Because if we find out that you're working for another company, then we'll let you go, and then we'll put you on that list called uh, what is it? Do not
Higher.
hire. Do not hire. And so, and that list is growing. And the thing is no matter how good you are, we personally just don't believe that if you're working 10 hours at Allied and you're working 10 hours at the other company during the storm, we just don't believe that we're going to be able to get the kind of work that we need from you. And so we'll just let you work at the other company and be happy. And if you come over here and we find out that you are there, then we're going to let the other company know that you're here. And we're going to let the other company know that we're going to let you go. And so I don't know where you're going to work after that. But it's really funny because the last couple of times that this happened, the other company is the one that's calling us saying that you're working over there with them and they're going to let you go. And when they tell us that you're working there, then we're going to let you go and we're going to put you on our list of not able to hire you again. So it's your choice, but I really don't want to go through that. So just work one of the companies. Okay.
Examiners.
Yeah. Examiners.
Examiner.
Yeah. Okay. Just examine at one of the companies and do what you want to do. But if you're working at that company, fine. Because you can't work for us too. And then and the funny thing about it is everybody tells on you. So keep that in mind. It's like, you know, and so we're going to find out. Trust me and believe me. Okay. So anyway, things that we'd like for you to take away. Have a productive, timely and professional work. Demonstrate the ability to work with others and represent the company, the client, and the program. And we ask you to do that and to keep it going. We want to keep our clients that we have, and we're looking for other clients, and we want them to know that we're serious about the business. And so this is one way that we do that. Demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the claims for both the NFIP and private, and they're different. So we need you to make sure that you understand that. Demonstrate understanding of customer-centric claims handling. And basically what we're saying is take your time, do what you need to do, respect the people that you're working out there with, the policyholders or whoever it is, and give them what you would like to have given to you. You know, if somebody's coming out there to talk to your mother, then go out there and handle them in that fashion. Understand our clients and expectations. And we're talking about superior quality claims handling. And that's what our expectations are. Our goal is to cultivate long-term partnerships with you, adjusters, examiners, and anybody else working with us during the floods or during the events. Now, I'm going to let you know that we're basically through for this particular presentation. And again, we want to thank each and every one of you. And so what we also like to say is, if you do have a resume and you really want to send something in, please send it to adjusters at Allied American USA FCN.com. And make sure that if you don't have an FCN, put private on there so we don't have to call you up and look for it. But if you do have an FCN, we ask that you send that along with your resume. Now, here's what's going to be happening in the next week or so. We're going to get a bunch of resumes because there was a couple of hundred of you on this call. So we're looking to get some resumes and we're looking forward to that. And we're going to look at your resume and we'll call people up if we think we should. Okay. And we'll be in touch with you. We'll talk to you about your resume as well, because we want to be ready when I get a call from the clients and when Candy gets a call from the clients. We want to be able to send them a list that we believe in of people that can do what we ask you to do on behalf of Allied, our policyholders, and our clients. And right now, I'm going to turn you over to Sister Candy, who wants to give you a final word of hallelujah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hallelujah. Please don't call me Candy, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. That's reserved for Donald. Everyone else is Candice. I did just want to touch on a couple things I noted during Donald's presentation. First of all, in the regard as far as working 10 hours a day, that is obvious. We're talking about examiners. Obviously, we would prefer the adjusters also work for one firm. In fact, it's actually in the contract. But he was actually referencing examiners. We have examiners that work for our client partners, and they have either a 10-hour or 12-hour day, and they were somehow able to manage to work for two different companies, working 10 to 12 hours a day for each company, which obviously the math isn't mathing there. So we just want to, we're not able to do that. Yeah. We have enough claims to keep everybody busy. You don't need to go anywhere else. We may not throw out 70 claims at a time, but we have the claims. We just, need to see that they're coming back before we give more. So just wanted to touch base on that. Some things I wanted to note as far as inspections, please make sure you're identifying yourself. In Florida, it is a state law that you have to present your Florida adjuster license to the person that you're meeting with. That is something that's in all of our narratives for private flood. It's a requirement that you have to do it. I also recommend having your FCN on you so that when you're asked to be identified. I got some calls during last storm and definitely during Ian. People were out there to inspect. The homeowners were scared. They didn't know who you were. They were calling my carriers asking who you were. Why is this person at my house? I don't know them. They don't have any identification. You need to have identification on you. We actually issue ID badges here at Allied, so everyone has a digital ID badge from us. But again, in Florida, you're required to have your adjuster license with you. One other thing I just can't stress enough is empathy on these claims. Please, please. I know many of us have been doing this a long time. I even catch myself guilty of this sometimes. You're just, you're not accustomed. You're so used to working these claims and you're seeing the disaster for many, many years. Many of these people have never experienced this before. I have some claims in New Jersey right now, new homeowners, never had a flood, also just bought the house. They are freaking out, and we need to be there for them. We need to guide them through the process. We need to answer their questions. We need to not tell them things aren't covered unless we're absolutely sure they're not covered. Just be very careful with your empathy. It's so, so, so important. Back on the private flood versus NFIP piece, I did want to reiterate, like Kathryn touched on earlier, a GCF for NFIP is 2 or more acres, 2 or more properties. That is not the requirement for private flood. I've had a couple daily claims recently where the adjusters believe there to be no coverage because they did not have 2 or more properties, 2 or more acres. That is not a requirement on the majority of these underwriters. There are multiple underwriters. One of the policies does actually read verbatim with the NFIP, but most of them do not. Most of them, it's water runoff from any source. So we have to be very careful with denying claims or telling a homeowner there's no coverage when in fact there probably is. Same thing with the single deductible. Just wanted to touch on that again. Keep in mind there is only one deductible on the majority of the private flood policies. There is not a separate contents deductible. Again, there is just one of their policies that reads that way because it mirrors the NFIP. I wanted to also just touch on the HVAC that Donald touched on. and the generators. So again, I think we mentioned this before, generators outside may be covered on a private flood claim with or without housing. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be in a building. They can still be covered. So again, if you see a generator, document it, take pictures, account for the model number, serial number, make sure we're paying for like, kind, and quality. HVAC, the air handler issue, especially in the state of Florida with the requirement now to replace the inside unit. That is something that's actually covered on private flood. They have law and ordinance coverage for anything. It's not specific to ICC or raising the house. It is applicable to any law and ordinance requirement, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. So if you get an air handler bid or a bid saying that the entire system has to be replaced, it is very likely that that's covered. So you need to document it. Don't tell the homeowner, sorry, I can't help you. That's not covered, because that's not true. It actually probably is covered, and it's something, if you don't know, just come to me and we can look at the policy and determine if it's covered. I wanted to go back on the mobile home piece. Donald said, give all your mobile homes back. He did not mean that. What he meant was, I will help you get through the process, because nobody wants a mobile home thing. We all know that, but I need people to handle them. So don't be giving them back. Call me up. I'll help you with it. That's how that's going to go. Thank you, Donald.
You're welcome.
Let me get that air situation. I think that's it for the differences. Just my last thing I wanted to remark on is Allied and our payroll here. We do not wait to get paid by the client. We actually pay up front. Once you get in the rotation and start submitting claims, we pay every Monday. Generally takes about 21 days to get paid. Sometimes, depending on the dates of the month, you may actually get paid in 2 weeks. Examiners get paid every week after skipping the first week. Right, from closure. So obviously, you need to close the file to be paid, but once you start closing claims and the claims are rolling in, you're paid every week. There's no delay. We don't withhold. We don't do any holdback, and we pay the claim as soon as it's closed within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm here always. Anyone that's worked for us before knows I am always available, to probably my detriment. But I want to be there for you guys. I want to help you. You have my phone number, you have my email. I want to be there for you. So I love that you guys have all signed in today. I appreciate your time. I know everybody's really busy. We're going to continue answering questions for a bit on the Q&A side. If anybody wants to continue asking, we'll stay here and answer those. And I don't think I have anything else. Donald, you good?
Well, no, but I certainly, again, we really appreciate everybody that joined us today, and look forward to any comments or questions that you may have. Now, if you have some stuff for our clients that were on earlier, send them in and we'll get that question to them if you need us to. So there's no problem. Thank you, and please have a good day, and we will be in touch. And with that,
Wrap.
no, no.
Thank you all.
Thank you.